Hey, everybody, it's Donovan with the Music Retail Podcast. I want to thank you for being here today and for watching today's episode. I think you're going to really, really enjoy it. You know, my goal with the Music Retail Podcast is to interview people that are interesting, that have something to give and to share, that can help you build a better business. In order to make sure you receive future updates, please like and subscribe. That not only will keep you in the loop for things as they come up, but it also helps the YouTube algorithm to know that people actually like this content and will share it around. Okay, let's get to the interview.
Okay, so this is a lot of fun. We're today with my special guest is Zach Phillips, who is the NAMM director and probably has other responsibilities we're going to hear about today. Zach has been an industry friend and resource and confidant for me for years and years and years, and I've admired you, Zach, ever since you were the editor at Music Inc. and felt like you just did such a great job there, and was really excited when you joined the NAMM team several years ago. So really glad to have you on the Music Retail Podcast. So I kind of want to start with a couple things. I want us to first get a general sense of just kind of your background and like how you got into the music industry, all those kind of things, and then how you ended up at NAMM. And then after that, we're going to definitely spend some time talking about the upcoming Believe in Music Week that NAMM is producing. But first, tell me your background and how you got into this crazy business.
Well, first, thank you for the introduction. This is a mutual fan club, Donovan. I remember.
That's kind.
It's funny. I don't remember what the session was, but you did a NAMM Idea Center session when I was still at the magazine. I was still at Music Inc., which I'll mention in a second. I remember walking past the Idea Center on the show floor. I think it was in Hall B at the time, and seeing you working the stage and the audience. You know, it was as if Roger Daltrey had just, walked out on the stage at a Who concert. I thought, I've got to get to know this guy. Really funny, too. Smart, but, some cross between Roger Daltrey and like a Chris Rock concert or something. So, yeah. No,
Drew Carey.
That's right. Well, no, your words. The glasses, of course. I essentially started in the music business because first and foremost, I'm a singer-songwriter and a hack guitarist. That's what led me into the industry. I did that throughout high school, played in coffee houses when I was in college. And then somewhere between junior and senior year, I went to Loyola University in Chicago. I interned at a not-for-profit that represented long-term care facilities. My first foray into associations without knowing it at the time. Graduated, became an assistant editor at Music Inc. I think 4 or 5 years in, I became the editor. Did that for 8 or 9 years, and then I joined NAMM in 2012. I think November 1st was my start date, late 2012. Yeah, and I serve now. My role is essentially director of professional development. It's a fancy title. It essentially just means I oversee the education programs. And I have a few other roles within NAMM, but it's primarily focused on the education programs. Yeah. For those who don't know,
I didn't realize
National Association of Music Merchants. I shouldn't be presumptuous here.
Right. I would imagine any of my listeners probably know what that is. So
one would assume, but the last year's 2020 taught us, I think it's humility, and I don't want to assume anything.
It's true. That's true. Now you said something really interesting there. Like you gave the acronym for NAMM, or the definition for the acronym, but my understanding is that's not accurate anymore, right?
That's right.
Isn't NAMM just a word in and of itself now? Because the trade name is the International Music Products Association or something like that, and the NAMM is just like the old school vernacular of it's become like its trade name or brand name, like Kleenex or something like that.
It's funny, you know what? We're still technically the National Association of Music Merchants. There was a period in time we were going by the International Music Products Association. I think the former or the latter is still what we are, though. I mean, we represent retailers and manufacturers and some service providers as well, even people who offer credit card processing and so forth. So basically anybody who makes, sells, manufactures musical instruments, sound equipment, and so forth.
Yeah.
We have a global membership.
That's right. I didn't realize also how long it's been that you've been at NAMM. Doesn't seem like it's been that long. How has time passed that quickly? I don't get it.
yeah. The world and our bodies age, but I guess it doesn't seem that long. Is that maybe that's a sign of aging, Donovan? I'm not sure that went by that quickly. You've
I
been busy
always
too.
Yeah, I always assumed that maturity would come with it, but I've totally missed that. And I just
And
have the
wisdom.
body aging, the poor memory, and
That's
but
right.
no maturity.
No, I resemble that.
So let's talk about this Believe in Music Week, because I got to tell you, like, me being the slow learner that I am, I'm a learner but a slow learner. When it first came out, it didn't dawn on me that it's basically the virtual NAMM show. Like, I didn't catch that at first. I just thought, like, oh,
Yeah.
it's gonna make some concerts and stuff. And then the more I started seeing it and reading into it, I realized, like, oh, this is the NAMM show, but just done in a virtual format. So tell me, like, how this idea came to be, and kind of give me an idea of what to expect.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. We realized by about midsummer that hosting the show was going to be an impossibility. It just wasn't in the best interest of the health and safety of our members in the industry. So we decided the one option that was left was a virtual option. And, you know, from the beginning, we said there are a couple pillars to this. Three. We're going to have a marketplace, we're going to have education, and we're going to have this thing called Believe in Music TV. It's evolved a bit since then, which is part of the reason you may not have made that connection. Um, Funny enough, we really started looking at the industry though and said, okay, we can't recreate a NAMM show. Nothing replaces a NAMM show. That is an in-person proposition. We have no illusions about that. But at the same time, we looked at the industry's wants and needs and how we could best meet them with a virtual gathering, and we realized there were some cool things we could do. So that's where Believe in Music came from. You'll notice we did not call it the NAMM show, which may have created, people may not have immediately made that connection as you'd mentioned, but we wanted to convey it was a separate event with a separate purpose. I mean, there are analogous elements to the NAMM show. Like I said, the marketplace with exhibits, I think a really robust educational program, networking opportunities, but it's different. We have this tagline, I had to look it up here, the global online gathering to unify and support the people who bring music to the world. Because we wanted to make this kind of in-spirit gift to the industry. It's free and open to anyone. So to everybody who's listening to this, make sure to register. You can have your friends register. Certainly, we want all your staff to register. There's going to be a big offering for anybody in music retail or supply. There will be some specific member content. Like I said, marketplace, robust education program. And then there's this thing called Believe in Music TV, which will kind of be the first thing you see when you get onto the Swap Card platform. We'll have interviews with Melissa Etheridge. We'll have interviews with Garth Brooks. Those will be live, in fact, so fingers crossed. Fingers permanently crossed for a better 2021, in fact. Bunch of interesting artist interviews. I think we have some fantastic interviews and sessions with thought leaders that are going to go on there that are separate even from what we're doing with the education programs. Some great musical performances, and I think some spectacular gear demos too. On top of that, it's a global event, so we'll also have global content that airs at particular times. Education, Believe in Music TV content. So it's going to be, in a sense, there's a lot of content at the NAMM show. This is sort of that on steroids, I think. That's the one thing we can do in the virtual environment that I think is unique. So it's exciting. We're not trying to replace the NAMM show.
Right.
We're going to miss everybody. When our president and CEO, Joe Lamond, gets on camera at 9 a.m. on January 21st, we're going to be excited. And at the same time, we'll be wishing it was, the opening NAMM breakfast session and he was hitting the stage and seeing everybody in person. So that's the intention behind it.
It's great that you guys are doing something, though, because not having, gosh, I know for me, like, having that cadence of twice a year NAMM shows to be inspired and to connect with friends and see new products, like it just helps me to keep my energy levels and enthusiasm for my industry and my business. sustained throughout the year.
Good.
And it's really difficult when those shows are gone. And I think we all understand why they are, and are accepting of that. But it's just still hard. And so
Yeah.
to at least have this to give you something, to give you a taste of what the show is kind of like, is going to really be fantastic. And I think some things will certainly translate well. I mean, I think one of my absolute favorite things of the NAMM show is the thing that you're responsible for, the NAMU sessions, the education sessions. Like, I tell
everyone.
That to
everyone. You say that to everyone.
You
say that to all the NAMM
no. I tell people that all the time, that Springfield Music would not be a fraction of what we are as a company without NAMU. And that every year when we go to the trade show, we always wait to schedule appointments until the NAMU schedule is released. And then we put that into the calendar, and then all of our vendor appointments then go around the NAMU center. And whereas a lot of dealers do it the other way around, they squeeze in an NAMU session whenever they've got an open time. And I just feel like that's just made all the difference for us. And I think NAMU is the kind of thing that would actually translate well to virtual. I mean, that's going to really be fantastic. I mean, the concerts, obviously we can do that as well, but we all know there's just nothing like live music and being in person. The next best thing is watching it live, even if you're not in person. But NAMU, I think doing that virtually is going to likely be very successful.
Well, first off, I appreciate it, Donovan. And it's funny, the magic of NAMU, which I wish I came up with and I didn't. Some conference director probably hundreds of years ago came up with it. But the magic of it is the fact that you, as the audience member, are also oftentimes the presenter. Our members do it. They put it together. There are outside experts that we bring in for certain topics, and funny enough, you were one of the people who've given me a lot of great recommendations for the kind of topics you're looking for outside presenters on. But it's really the members who built NAMU. So it's wonderful to hear that it's relevant. Funny enough, with Believe in Music, the educational sessions, we're using a slightly different format. It's actually kind of a lot like the NAMM Idea Center on steroids, insofar as we've all been on way too many Zoom calls. This one's the exception, of course. This is my favorite Zoom call of the year. But we decided, the last thing you want to do is keep people on a session for hours at a time. So, there will be some in-depth training for certain professional communities we serve, but we're really going with the quick hits. These are short YouTube style sessions. I think in NAMU, the average session length is 15 minutes. I think that because it's video and because it's focused, it's still going to be very impactful. So it's the downside of that is there's a certain level of in-depth of training you can't get into. The upside is it's going to be one of the best, I think, idea grab bags we've ever had.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. You never know when you start out. You make the plan, you have your best intentions, you create a strategy. I've seen a lot of the content and it feels very good right now. So
yeah.
I'll have to see what you think, though. You're my favorite critic because you'll tell me.
Well,
and you'll be positive, but you'll also be very, very frank with your feedback. You've driven a lot of this, actually. You're part of the think tank, man. You're my informal board of directors.
I always appreciate that you, take my input and take it so graciously. And, sometimes I get very opinionated about it, but it's only because it's been so important to me. Yeah. And I need it. I need that development. And you and I have had several conversations when, if I go to a session and feel like they didn't deliver on the session promise, I get really frustrated by that because, I spent a lot of time and effort and I went through a lot of expense to be present for that time. That was time that could have been spent doing something else. And if a presenter doesn't deliver on their promise, that's frustrating to me. Over the years, I've gotten a little more understanding about it because I recognized that, in an idea center topic, I probably can't get all the information I need to act on something, but I can certainly get enough information to, first of all, consider how I might approach that topic, and then also maybe even learn a resource for someone that if I want to learn this more of who to talk to. A
Right.
perfect example is at the last winter show. I got to see a presentation that the Riscos did
That was a good
about
one.
virtual lessons,
Yeah.
and that one was so good. And then afterwards I went up and talked to them a little bit more, and I got a little more information from them to kind of better understand how things were working. And you talk about timely, like man, like those notes came in real handy about 60 days later.
That presentation was awfully, what's the term? Prophetic, that
Yeah.
they eerily almost.
Yeah.
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 They have a good session coming up at Believe in Music too, related to that. I think it's the concept of a hybrid program, with a little in store, a lot of virtual. So,
I'm
and
looking forward to that.
they're fun to watch present too, as just such a tight husband and wife team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going to be really great. And so I'd encourage people who watch, especially when the presenters are, our own membership. If you see a session that you like, man, those people you can track those folks down.
You can,
You
and you know
can
what?
Google them and find them and ask them more questions, and that's been really beneficial to me.
I mean, people in our industry are very accessible. There's very much a spirit of community, which is, I think, another reason that, knock on wood, I'm the beneficiary of this, with this being my gig. It makes it a lot easier to ask people to present and share ideas. So that's something wonderful about the industry that just kind of happens to fall in all our laps, that there's that spirit to it. You were just mentioning something I wanted to comment on related to, we're talking about the Riscos. Oh, one of the funny things about NAMU, and to some extent we're going to miss it, is I've noticed a lot of conversation happens right after the sessions too. I mean, we've looked at the physical structure of the Idea Center and said, how do we facilitate 20 people who can stand around Donovan afterwards? And that's part of this as well. Luckily, with the platform we're using, I think there's going to be a nice chat feature for the pre-recorded content, so presenters can log on and do it Reddit style during their sessions. So, but
Right.
yeah, that's a nice. Somebody told me multiple times, people from outside industries have come to our show and just said, first off, it's really vibrant. Second, wow, I mean, there is a spirit of community in this industry.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I'm glad to hear that there's going to be some kind of Q&A after discussion available. That I figured that you guys would probably come up with some kind of solution for that. But
And during sessions as well, just the chat feature in our platform.
Yeah, that's going to be really cool. I'm excited about that. And then we also have the Top 100 awards. Those are traditionally done and during Summer NAMM, but this year, because Summer NAMM had to be canceled, it was pushed to Winter NAMM. And that's going to be interesting to see how that's done virtually. Is that going to be like a presentation, or is it just going to be like a press release, or how was the Top 100 going to be done?
It's funny you should ask about this. We just had a call about
You don't
this.
know.
Oh no, we do know. We do know.
NAMM's trying to figure it out still.
We're going to our production.
We got a week.
Yeah. I'd love to say everything's 100% dialed in. That actually is. Our head of production, Pete Johnston, great guy, incredibly creative guy. He's seen some fantastic best practices with everything from like the Emmys to the San Diego Music Awards. So he has a plan. I've seen the script. In fact, funny enough, Donovan, this year I'm taking off my NAMM cap in saying this. They're scraping the bottom of the barrel with the host of that. I'm the host of the Top 100 Awards this year. You heard it here first.
I love it. We're getting a scoop for the Music Retail Podcast.
You're getting a you're getting a, I guess if you call that a scoop, but yeah. So
well,
setting aside my hosting, it's going to be great.
When you said bottom of the barrel, I thought for sure you were telling me that Alan Friedman was going to host it. So you're a welcome step up from that.
That I will agree with. That I will agree with.
I shouldn't actually probably say that since we're getting ready to send him all of our data to do our taxes for this year. So hopefully he doesn't hear that. He'll be too busy doing that.
Hey, actually, and Donovan, forgive me. I'm going to just keep my since we're talking about it, if you don't mind the shameless promotion, Alan.
Please.
And Alan Friedman, industry accountant extraordinaire, and along with his business partner Daniel Job, they have two incredible sessions planned. One on managing cash flow during a pandemic, and one on some of the unique inventory challenges and how to navigate those during a pandemic. And of course, whoever thought we'd have here we are with a supply issue in a lot of segments. So
oh my gosh, can you believe that?
Sessions. Isn't it bizarre? Who would have thought bread makers and guitars all sold out?
That's the thing. We've had an oversupply in our industry for so long, really.
That's right.
And this year it's been really the total opposite. It's been so difficult. And, one of the keys for our success at Springfield Music this year is just the fact that we are big enough where we're able to have a full-time buyer who can scour our suppliers to find who has stuff in stock.
Yeah.
And just keeping the stores stocked has been challenging. And if you have it, you can likely sell it, but you've got to have it, assuming, again, you're a combo or recording dealer.
Can I ask, Donovan, what segments are you especially, I'm going to just turn this around for 2 seconds here because I want to pull a Robert Christie. I want to interview you. What segments are you seeing that are particularly strong right now with this, since the beginning of the pandemic? Anything stand out? Are they the obvious audio interfaces, or?
That's it.
What are you seeing?
Yeah, anything to do with audio interface, recording, podcast type stuff, all that has been, you can sell it as soon as you can get it. And then guitars and anything that people are doing to make music at home has been really successful. I had a quick phone call today with Jim Hirschberg, who is one of the partners with MI Sales Track.
Sure.
And he was like, if you're in the industry, or part of the industry where you're selling guitars and recording interfaces, you likely had a very good 2021. If you're focused on live sound, then you probably had a very, very rough year. And that's very true. So those parts have been very good. For us, lessons has been a struggle. We've worked hard to hold on to as much as we can, but we've seen a significant dip there. And then obviously the back to school rentals. I think most school music dealers that I've talked to, at least, had a significantly down rental season. And that was largely predicated by the fact that our schools all left for spring break and never returned. Our educators didn't have the opportunity to recruit. They didn't have an opportunity to play test. They didn't have an opportunity to do the dog and pony show. And their numbers just showed for it. We had many programs that had reduced enrollment. We had many programs that delayed enrollment. We had many programs that just canceled beginning band entirely. So that was difficult, but certainly the guitar and the recording side was really, really strong.
It's fascinating. I was talking with someone and this was probably this summer, but although I don't know that it's evolved as much since then, but they said essentially what we've gone through is the Great Recession in the industry, but reversed, where school music, which was so, throughout the Great Recession, was such a strong, steady segment. A little tougher this year for all the obvious reasons and the reasons you mentioned as well. Pianos, digital pianos, pretty good. Had a much tougher time during the recession. So it's goes to show. I mean, it's very, we all have to be flexible and nimble with our businesses, I suppose. Demand's demand, and sometimes tough to predict.
That's definitely true. You have to kind of keep an eye on what's moving and move over into that stream. So you can take advantage of it. Any other, you'd mentioned Alan Friedman and Daniel Job sessions, which are always a must watch. I mean, gosh, Alan's just so responsible for me, for learning what I know about our industry in terms of like the economics and the financial aspects of our industry. And I remember when we started using him as our accountant, I felt like, wow, like we've really made it, that we have Alan Friedman as our accountant. And I tease him only because I really admire him and what he's done for our industry. And you mentioned the Riscos are going to do a great session as well on hybrid lessons and education. Any other sessions that stand out in your mind right now? I know I'm kind of getting you on the spot here.
No, it's
They're all going to be
fine.
wonderful, of course, but
I
is there any
yeah, I
that
mean,
stand out?
it's funny. I don't. I'm not sure what the right analogy would be here, other than I love all the children. I love the, there's not a session there that we didn't book and feel great about. Um, I'll say this: there are some sessions. We're not calling them keynotes per se. I don't think that format really makes sense with Believe in Music because the sessions are so short. But we have some sessions that are almost like micro keynotes. Bob Phibbs, the retail doctor, I mean, incredibly insightful, is a wonderful podcast. He's done a bunch of retail summits, did the first retail innovation summit for NAMM at the NAMM show, some breakfast sessions. He has a great session about retail trends, about, and I'm always a little hesitant to ever say that it's an inspirational session because our industry we don't lack any passion or inspiration, but
Right.
it's a fascinating session because he pointed out this is a time in which singing in a choir is taboo. That's the time we're living in. It's never been more important than ever for the businesses in our industry to hold that torch, if you will, to keep at the risk of sounding a little bit overly sentimental, to keep music alive. So there's a lot of really interesting, inspirational concepts that I'd never heard before. But more than that, he digs into some big trends that have been happening. And I don't want to give it all away, but one of the things that he's going to talk about that it's just one of those side effects of the pandemic is that people have more time by virtue of the fact that they have shorter commutes now or no commutes, and how are they using that? And is that an opportunity for our industry? So Bob Phibbs, the retail doctor, excellent. Ayanna Webb, she has a online piano lessons business, the Musical Web. She's doing a great session on email marketing. Tom Webster, who's one of the foremost podcasting experts in the world. We've been kind of trading emails for years. He's going to do a great session on podcasting. And I think there's going to be some pretty mind-blowing stats in that as well, just how that's evolved in the last 5-6 years. That is a snapshot. There are 40 sessions. I just did a count earlier today. We have 40 NAMM U sessions, total educational sessions, not counting some of the educational sessions that the brands are going to be offering in the marketplace. I think we're at almost 190 sessions right now.
Holy cow.
Now think about this though, Donovan. I think a lot of people have missed, sort of quietly in the last few years, the NAMM show has launched education programs, and this certainly carries over into Believe in Music, for all the different major professional communities at the show. Music, retail, and supplier. We've had NAMM U for years, and if anything, I think that program's probably expanded a bit. But we have a robust audio production and music technology education program, interviews with some great interviews with people like Dave Cobb, one of Nashville's most. I'll just say it, one of my favorite producers right now. We have an entertainment technology education program. Our public affairs team has put together some excellent programming for students and educators, nonprofits. They have a music and social justice track. There's a robust education track for every community. We almost look at them as verticals. And the funny thing is, all of these groups cross-pollinate too. I mean, a school music dealer might go to a tech track session in the pro audio track because he or she might run sound at church on the weekends, or go to the entertainment technology track for a session on lighting design, or to hear from a major lighting designer, production designer, because they might moonlight at a club doing that. So, these professional communities are very, there are no clear boundaries to them. But I think we're at about 190 sessions. And I should mention this: nobody's going to be able to watch all of that on Thursday and Friday during Believe in Music. We have a little pre-show content, but much of it's Thursday and Friday. The platform is open through February. I think we're in leap year this year. The end of February, the 29th. So it's open for the full month. Go back in. Once a session airs at its designated time, it's on demand after that.
That's amazing. That's going to be so helpful because, one of the difficulties, of course, of the NAMM show, especially for us, like we'll go and we'll be inspired at the Idea Center session. We spent
Yeah.
an entire day at the conclusion of the show figuring out, like, okay, out of all these ideas that we've heard, which ones do we like the best? Which ones are we going to implement? It's because you're sort of drinking out of a fire hose, you
Of
know?
course.
So knowing that you can actually space those out and be listening to those with a more fresh approach, you could listen to just a couple a day for the next 45 days, and that would be so much easier than trying to cram them all in. That's going to be
That's
really, really tremendous.
It's so smart of your team to do that too. Best to do that while the ideas are still, reasonably, while they're still percolating and
Yeah,
new. It's
yeah.
fantastic.
We do a 2-day annual meeting at Springfield Music with all of our store managers and leaders in the company every year. When we review the prior year, and then we plan out the the current year, and we always time that it has to be after the NAMM show,
Yeah.
because we know, like, we're going to go to the NAMM show. Like, if we do it before, then we're going to go to the NAMM show, and the NAMM show is going to screw it all up, because we're going to come back and we're going to have seen something in the NAMM show that we're like, hey, I know we were going to do this, but we don't want to do that anymore. We want to do this thing we saw at the show, the session we heard at the show, whatever it is. And so now we always wait, like, we do the NAMM show first, and then we do our annual meeting. And so we're inspired and ready to go. And also equipped with resources. We also know that
Right.
if we wanted to work on a hybrid lesson program, well, we've been to a session. We know someone who's doing that. We have a resource of who we can
Right.
reach out to learn more as we try to put that into place this year. Yeah, there's just some really, really great content. I looking just on the first day, you'd mentioned um, Bob, the retail doctors, Bob Phibbs session, but there's a thing about how your social strategy needs to evolve this year.
Oh, that's a good one.
There's
That's a good one,
how
by the
to
way.
systematically improve your customer experience. Like,
Great.
I just like look at one day of these and just think, like, this is going to be so great. And that session you mentioned about the email marketing, I think that's so relevant for us. My friend and business coach, Bob Nagan from Whizbang Training, just
Oh yeah.
constantly talks about the importance of owning your email list, because it's great to have a Facebook presence and Instagram presence and all these other things, but those are all mediums that someone else owns and controls and can change at any moment. You have to have a way to have direct contact with your customer, and email marketing is still today a very relevant and affordable way to do it, but you've got to do it well in order for anyone to actually give a crap about the emails that you're sending for them to be effective.
And there's so much more noise. More people are doing it, but I mean, he has an amazing, amazing. He's got great e-blasts. I mean, he sends something,
Yes.
and I pay attention. Ayana Webb, who's offering that session, I think she has 3,000 piano students, and she's built it primarily to some extent with. I think she's pretty big on social media channels as well, but email's been a huge component of it.
That's
On her
amazing.
own, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So tell me, how are
Great.
the virtual exhibits going to work? I know that's not like your area of influence necessarily, but you probably have some insight into it. It's hard to imagine what, like, you'll never replace the experience of walking through Hall E,
Yeah.
or of covering your ears as you go through the percussion section. And I'm
But
going to
it's
miss
it's
the
beautiful sound. It's a beautiful
yeah,
sound still.
gonna miss the volume police trying to keep everyone from getting too loud. But any idea how the virtual exhibits are going to work?
Yeah, I'll I'll give you the nickel and dime tour because it's like you said, it's not my jurisdiction, but I have spent a lot of time in the marketplace and meeting with our trade show team about it and discussing it with them. Like the NAMM show, there are different tiers and different packages, and all of them are valuable. There are differences between each one. In many of the packages, you can book appointments through the platform. Depending on the package that somebody's in, they can show more products, host more, call them quote unquote booth sessions. And that actually ties back to the platform. We chose a platform called SwapCard in large part because of its AI matchmaking algorithm. Our head of technology, Dan Kessler, really smart guy, forward-thinking guy, and he, along with Jessica Duarte, who serves in professional development as well and is very techy, they found this platform and they chose it specifically for that, for the experience. They said it mirrored among other things, the experience that a lot of us were familiar with in social media, on Facebook, for instance. So I think it's going to be an excellent platform. They have this AI matchmaking that's very powerful. The exhibits, there are a lot of features to them. It's pretty impressive. So, how will it work? It's going to be different than, walking into the drum hall, certainly. But you're going to see a lot of new products. And we also have some mechanisms to get the word out. For instance, most of the education and sessions will be behind a tab, a button when you get there called Education and Training. When you go to that, you'll see a session time. At 10:30, when that session, goes live, you click on it, you watch it. It's on demand at that point. But we're also offering this Believe in Music TV concept that I'd mentioned, along with something called Artist TV, which will be kind of interesting, insightful artist interviews about the craft and what's driving these artists and their inspiration. But we also have this thing called Gear TV, which is for a lot of manufacturers who are participating in this. This is kind of it's sort of a preview. It's another means for people to get I'll just use the term, almost it's like a playlist of great demos, and kind of could give people a hit list of items to explore or products to explore in the marketplace. Another way in which we're exposing the innovation and the new product introductions that are going to come through this event.
Yeah, that's going to be really
How was
exciting.
that? Nobody's ever asked me that before, Donovan, actually. So I hope that was concise enough.
Yeah, it was. And I think it's because it's all new, it's going to be something for all of us to experience and to see. And I'm certainly, I think a lot of people excited to see what that's going to be like to get these virtual presentations for product. And then, of course, we have a bunch of concerts and live music performances as well. Yeah. I mean, that's always a big part of the NAMM show. And we're going to be able to see some of that as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
And I'll say this, I'm excited about this. Betty Haywood, our Director of International Affairs, was kind of tasked. She went off and tried to find not only some interesting international content for NAMU, there'll be a few sessions, a really interesting Australian MI roundtable, for instance, but she also curated some great international artist performances. I mean, some people, there was one, I can't remember the person's name, in China. This person is like Bono, and they're going to be doing a performance at Believe in Music. So it's not only going to be, artists that we all would love to see performances from, but I think people are going to discover some new international superstars as well. Sort of like you'd see at a breakfast session at the NAMM show.
Yeah.
Before it starts.
Certainly going to miss eating my half pound of bacon and entire serving of honeydew melon and pineapple while listening to some amazing artists that I've never heard of, but I'm enthralled
That's right.
with,
That's the one piece that's not going to be the same. Not being able to give you a bear hug in the morning at the NAMU breakfast session, but I think we'll do what we can to keep people connected, and I think this is going to be a great platform for it.
So it starts next week, which is, what's the date that this all begins?
Well, it's the main event, if you will. And I'm using that term, we're not using that term formally, but think of Thursday and Friday, January 21st and 22nd, as the show, if you will. That's Believe in Music. However, that whole week, starting on, it's Monday, I guess would be the 18th or 19th? 18th. There'll be sessions, there'll be events, just more specific to certain professional communities. But the big event is that Thursday and Friday. And then, like I said, this will be on demand throughout the month of February.
Awesome.
And, exhibitors can still engage with their brand experience pages as well.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. Registration's free as well. It's the way that NAMM is trying to give back and help.
We let it be said that NAMM thinks long and strategically about big decisions. And, as we'd mentioned earlier, some segments of the industry are doing great. I mean, we've all seen the news coming from Sweetwater, just in terms of the kind of business that's come through this, and how that's a very innovative business, how well they're doing. The guitar business is doing great. Good time to be in audio interfaces. Other segments, I mean, live entertainment, massive NAMM community. Let's just say it, it's been pretty devastated.
Mm-hmm.
We took a look at this and said the right thing to do right now is to make this incredibly accessible and offer this as a gift to the industry. There will be member-specific content and features. Some NAMM sessions will be member-only. I believe there will be some networking that's member-only. As a member, I believe that to interact, you have to have a certain, what's the term, register with a certain credential to be able to have exhibitor appointments. So there are certain features that are member only, but we decided this was the gift to the industry right now. It was the right thing
That's
to do.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So they can go to NAMM.org for information and can also register. You can sign up.
That's right.
And register to attend. You can register your employees as well. This is, for music stores, this is such a great thing because normally a lot of stores are maybe only the owners go out, or maybe the owners and managers will go out, or maybe occasionally you can bring a few employees. But now we can actually register all of our employees.
That's right.
And because it's on demand, they don't have to just step off the floor to try to cram all this into a couple of days. We can watch this kind of throughout the entire process and share this, virtual, somewhat representation of the NAMM show with everybody.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be really exciting. And that's
going
to be all new.
The content's short, Donovan. That's the other thing. You're not taking somebody off your sales floor for very long if they were to watch a 15-minute session. So that's absolutely right. And funny enough, I've heard from 2 retailers who have, independent retailers, probably, they're not multinational retailers or national retailers, but big. They've registered 50 people each, 50 staff each. So you said it. I encourage everybody to register their staff for this. It's a way for us to stay connected, and I think it's going to be powerful. There, NAMM hat off. Removing NAMM hat.
That's going to be really exciting.
Yeah,
it's going to be really exciting. So I'm certainly looking forward to it, and I'm sure you guys just consistently do such a good job with those things that I'm really eager to see how you all do this. The innovation summit you did over the summer was excellent, and I have no doubt that this will be also very inspiring and useful as well.
Good.
So
I'm glad you came to that. It's great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I wouldn't miss it.
Or logged on rather.
Yeah. So let's just, now that we've kind of talked about that, let's shift gears just quickly before we close out and just talk about a few other things about our industry in general. And maybe specifically, what have you seen over the last 12 months in our industry? Like what's been kind of maybe the highlights that we're all well aware of where some of the challenges are, but what have you seen? And maybe give me an idea of like what's your opinion on what you're expecting to see in 2021?
You had mentioned that we might talk about this, and I thought about it, and I wanted to come up with something pithy. But as you know, I mean, being a reporter for 13 years, we would oftentimes poll industry insiders on their predictions for the future, and it's really tough to weigh in on that. And of course, 2020 made fools of us all if we tried to make predictions about it in January. I will say this, and I'll answer the question somewhat differently, Donovan. I heard someone say recently that due to COVID, we skipped 10 years in 10 months, and we're already in 2030. And I do not think that's an exaggeration. I think we are living in that reality right now. I think we saw a greater migration toward retailers truly embracing an omni-channel business model. I think people miss brick and mortar right now. I think people are pining to go try out an instrument in a showroom right now. I think people are embracing the convenience of online retail, of course. We all know it's hard to drive a quarter mile without seeing an Amazon delivery truck, for instance.
Yep.
But I think we're in 2030. I think that's what the industry would look like. It's certainly in 5 years from now. Like in January 2020, I think we're seeing what it was going to look like in January 2025 right now.
Interesting. Interesting. I wouldn't disagree because when you look at like
Maybe
curbside
2030.
pickup,
Maybe 2030. I'll say definitely 2025. Maybe 2030.
yeah, I'm with you on the 2025 thing. Curbside delivery, local delivery, curbside pickup, in-store appointments. Like these are all things that we were, you were seeing a little bit of that in some cutting edge retailers, and
Right.
adoption rate was coming, but it was going to take a long time. Virtualization, virtualization of like
Virtual
teaching lessons,
lessons. Yep.
virtual showroom, showing all that. Those are all things that people were working on that you would see over the next 5 or 10 years at a normal pace. But because it was thrust upon us to adapt or fail, um, you're right. We embrace those technologies and those new practices immediately. So now it's really fascinating to, all right, now we know that. Now what does the next 5 years look like? Like,
That's right.
I think that's going to be a really interesting question. I do think almost all the things that we're talking about are likely in some way or another things that are here to stay. Do you agree? And in terms,
I don't
I'm
think.
thinking
Yeah.
specifically curbside, local delivery, virtualization for both lessons, appointments. Like I think
Yeah.
this is something that people are going to become accustomed to and want to keep around.
It's yes. I think so. I mean, it's what it makes me think about. I thought about this concept of this increased migration toward an omni-channel, and we're just talking about retail here. This increased migration to an omni-channel um, strategy. And what does that mean? That means curbside. It means it's more than multi-channel. It's looking at your entire retail business holistically and meeting customers where they're at in every circumstance.
Yeah,
Curbside, online, in store, Zoom call at 10 o'clock at night to have a virtual sales appointment.
yeah,
I don't see, yeah, and I don't see us going away from that. I think you're right. Virtual lessons. Although, like I said, I think, it's going to be awfully fun to go back to a store. I'm just looking forward to trying out acoustic guitars when,
yeah.
when stores reopen. When they reopen
Well, it's
fully, I should
not
say.
to say that we wouldn't have the same in-person things that we've enjoyed in the past, but I think likely no one who cares enough about our industry and is forward-thinking enough to spend their free time listening to a podcast like this would be in this boat. But if there was a listener who was thinking like, well, there's we've got a vaccine now. This will all pass. I don't need to really worry about my website. I don't need to worry about curbside delivery. I've made it to this point. I can make it through. I think our opinion, just to hit it home, is like this stuff is here to stay.
Mhm.
And it's only going to become more important as we move forward. So
Yeah.
you should be thinking how to continue to offer local delivery and continue to offer curbside, continue to offer appointments when necessary. There's nothing like an in-person lesson, but as I learned from the Riscos, sometimes mom can't get home in time to pick the kid up to take him to guitar lessons. Well, if the kid's home
Exactly.
and has a webcam and can do his lesson virtually, that's better than no lesson at all.
Yeah.
So we would be wise to adapt these behaviors now.
Yeah, and the Riscos are a great example. I believe it was Mike and Miriam Risco who told me they had a teacher who moved, and this
Yep.
teacher had so many students that were just so attached to him, and that's a deep bond you form with your guitar teacher or a trumpet teacher, and
Yep.
he stayed on virtually, and to the
Yeah.
customer's delight because he was a great teacher to them. Um, we have technology to do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's obviously pretty apparent that in the next 10 years, like that one's going to be pretty easy because I think by that point, obviously we have flying cars, right?
Yeah, forget drones. That's
Yeah.
that's old school. That's so 2019.
I want
Donovan's
to
going to be
fly.
delivering. He's going to be delivering your tuba from his
That's right.
flying Tesla.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah.
That won't be till 2025, though. I think that's
Right.
yeah, maybe 2026. Let's
Drone
yeah.
delivery is 2025. Actually, I guess they're getting closer to that. I think they're speculating that could happen by next year.
Yeah.
So that could be really fascinating. So, to give me last couple of questions here. Give me a couple of things that are your favorite parts of our industry.
What are my favorite parts of the industry? This is an industry that you develop relationships in, and they become lifelong friendships if you stick around for even a little while. I think we're an industry of incredibly passionate, creative, industrious people, and even more so, we believe in a cause that's bigger than ourselves that will outlive us. I think that's incredibly inspiring. There is not a day that I don't, drive into the NAMM headquarters or log in, open my MacBook in the morning now that we're all more remote, and not love what I do. But we all have tough days and stressful days. I was talking with my mom about this about a year ago, and she just said, there are you're lucky to be in the business you're in. It's like, yeah, I don't forget that. We're participating in a cause that I think will outlive us all. I think I mentioned this earlier. I hear from people outside our industry who come to a NAMM show or another industry conference and just say, there is such a spirit of community in this business, and a spirit of kind of promoting a rising tide that lifts all boats, so to speak. And I think maybe that's because so many of us are musicians first and foremost, and come from a tradition of collaboration. As a musician, we sink or swim together. You sink or swim. The drummer falls apart. The guitarist is going to have a tough time.
Yeah.
And I think we're it's an industry of innovation. I challenge anyone to walk the NAMM show floor, the summer NAMM floor, and not be inspired. There's a vibrancy and creativity that's palpable. Speaking of my parents, my father plays classical guitar, and about 4 years ago, he was out here. My parents were out here during the NAMM show, so I used my connections and got them both a badge, and they came out on Sunday. And my first thing my father said is, "I've never seen something this vibrant in my life." The word he used was vibrant, and that's what makes this industry wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll give you probably a couple thoughts there, but I think those are, I don't know if those are unique to this industry, but they are still unique.
I think you really hit the nail
What
on
do
the
you
head.
think? I want to know. What do you think?
I kind of, my jaw dropped when you talked about as musicians, we're used to collaborating. So of course we would bring that to our business endeavors as well. And I think you're so right. I think you're the first person I recall putting it in that way. But you're right. Like, for me growing up playing in school bands, and then also playing bass guitar and cover bands and rock bands and stuff like that, the collaboration of your fellow musicians is so important. And if you've got your ensemble can only be good as the weakest portion of the ensemble. So it makes sense to try to help to bring those people along.
Yeah.
And our industry is much the same. And you're right. I think that's really profound. I hadn't ever considered that. I know I've always been so grateful for the people that have been willing to share their knowledge with me to help me. And I felt compelled to do the same,
Yeah.
because so many people have been mentors and have been helpful to me. I feel like, well, I must return the favor. And it's unusual in any industry for people that are ultimately competitors, ultimately, to work together to help each other. That's certainly unique. And that's a really, and of course there is a vibrancy. I mean, gosh, man, you step a minute on that floor, you can just feel it. And
I'm going to say this, Donovan. I have to interrupt because I am blown away. I'm going to say this. I'm going to pat myself on the back. I may be the first person ever who left you slightly speechless.
You did.
I interrupted.
So now,
Sorry. I was so
good.
thrilled that I was able to, has that ever, first on your podcast, right?
Yeah. Well, you're so eloquent and loquacious with your with your speech that
Between the ums and the ums.
yeah. So that's some of our
Incidentally,
favorite parts.
I am going to wax philosophical just since we're
Please.
talking, and this is a podcast, and podcasts are loose. Something that I read a book about 9 or 10 years ago, Patti Smith's memoir, Just Kids. You want to talk about eloquent. I mean, the language is just so lyrical. We know Patti Smith's a great, post-punk singer-songwriter, artist, singer, rock and roll legend in mind. She could have been a great memoir writer on top. She is. And she could have been that alone and been legendary, in my opinion. One of the things she talks about is what it means to be an artist. And I think there's a humility that comes to being an artist. And look, most people I know are wonderful, but we've all dealt with trickier personalities. And as musicians, we run into that because it's such an emotional pursuit. But at the end of the day, there's a humility. You sink or swim together when you're in a band, when you're recording. That really stuck with me. Really, I just wanted to inject, people need to read that Patti Smith memoir if they haven't. It's fascinating. I thought it was very eye-opening, the message and the key, I guess, subtext of that book, the theme of it.
Yeah, add it to your winter reading list.
People have time to do it. Yeah.
So we've talked about some of the favorite things. Tell me about like maybe the downsides, dark sides, least favorite things. What's wrong with our industry? However you want to kind of classify that.
Sure.
What are our issues?
I love our industry, so I have to think about that. But what I would say off the top of my head, I just don't think there's ever enough time. Here's what I mean by that. One of the things I love the most about our industry is that it's made up, as I mentioned before, of creative businesses, a lot of small businesses. In fact, I'd say small business is the backbone of our industry in retail and manufacturing. And so many small business owners and managers have to wear a lot of hats. It's part and parcel of what they do. And of course, the world's always changing. Business is changing, culture's always changing, and it's happening beneath our feet. So I think that presents a time challenge. When you're wearing a lot of hats, how do you find time to work on your business, not just in your business? We've all read, or at least are familiar with the E-Myth Revisited concept, the E-Myth concept. How do you best serve your customers and work on your business and continue to evolve when the world keeps changing? Now, that being said, of course, the vast majority of businesses I know have cracked that code with whatever tools available. They're a focused business model, hiring good people, of course, having great systems. They figured it out. But I think, time is the one resource we can't buy or borrow. And when you're a small business, I just think that's a challenge. And it's an eternal challenge. It's not unique to our industry, but it's a big challenge. In terms of what else is wrong with our business, I know many businesses have been a beneficiary of, not the right way to put it. Many businesses have done well since the pandemic. They have products and services that are critical and vital to consumers right now and their customer bases. I'm just going to say that COVID's what's wrong right now, because I am having a tough time, not being able to look forward to the NAMM show this year, despite this, what I think is going to be a phenomenal virtual event we put together. I want to get through this. I want to be able to walk back into Springfield Music next time, I'm in your neck of the woods, and try instruments out unencumbered. And have a NAMM show in Summer NAMM and be able to see everybody and shake their hands.
Go see live music and go see and support live musicians. We can't do that
goes
right now.
Without saying.
It's just killing. It's just killing us. So, I completely agree. Well, great answers. All right, coming down the pike here, last couple of questions. Can you share with me a negative situation that you've experienced in your business career that ultimately had a positive outcome or a positive effect on you, but you wouldn't want to repeat it again?
I'm not going to name a situation because nothing comes to mind. I will tell you what I regret. And now that I'm further into my career, it's so clear to me that I made a mistake here. I remember being young in the industry. I started at Music Inc. and Upbeat Daily magazines as an assistant editor just before I turned 23 years old. So I'm a child at this point. And when you're a reporter, you have to assert yourself to get a story. But that can be intimidating when you're young and speaking with industry legends and the heads of successful companies. Now, mind you, all of those people are wonderful and welcoming, and they're not intimidating. They're great. But it's, you're 22, 23 years old. That's a little scary to do for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
What I look back on and regret, there were multiple times those people asked me for my opinion or my perspective as a young person, and I didn't weigh in because I didn't think I had anything of value to offer. One of those people, one of our best buddies, may he rest in peace, Danny Rocks. Danny had a question for me when I was visiting him at Alfred Publishing, or Alfred Music, back in 2001 probably, about a project he was working on. And I blew him off, or just I think I told him I didn't have any perspective on it. I did, but I didn't mention it. And my point of this is, now that I'm further into my career, there is nothing I love more than hearing the perspective of somebody who's straight out of college. Because they may not have the knowledge, the experience, or even the insight that somebody who's an experienced industry professional has. But their perspective is still valid and critical, and they see the world as it is to that particular group, and in 5 years, it'll be mainstream. Whatever or 4 years, whatever the number would be. Soon enough, the way they see the world will become the mainstream. So I look back and say, I should have just been a little more comfortable and spoken up more, because man, I love hearing from those people now.
Yeah.
Something I look back on, I just think back of certain conversations where I just didn't weigh in at all. And man, when NAMM is an intern, I want to know how they see the world.
Yeah. I have the opposite.
Not a good war
regret.
story, but sorry.
I have the opposite regret. I have more conversations that I wish I would have kept my opinions to myself.
Hey, you educate us all. You educate us all with your great ideas. You entertain us all.
Yeah, sometimes I entertain you with my bad ideas, or I've gotten better as I've gotten older. But I remember when I was younger, around the age that you're talking about. A music company road rep who actually serviced the school that my wife was teaching at. They were talking, and somehow my name came up. And this person said, "Boy, your husband's not short on opinions, is he?" And when my wife told me that, I remember thinking, like, what the hell is that supposed to mean? And then I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, I probably have more opinions than I'm actually informed to have. Like, there's maybe some things I don't need to express an opinion on, especially if I just don't have the right information. So I'm trying to get a little better as I've gotten older, but that's difficult. So for all those times that you bit your tongue, I vomited out information to make up for it. So
we canceled each other out.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was still outspoken. I mean, you and I are both extroverts, so I was never short on words. But it could have even been me weighing in on. It sounds silly, but what artists I was listening to at the time, what music I was listening to at the time. I'm fascinated to hear about that from younger people. I really. I just think it's critical to know how they see the world. It's fascinating, and it's important because, like I said, it'll be mainstream in a few years. Whatever they are doing things.
It's going to influence our thinking for sure. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So finally, if you could send a message to yourself 10 years ago, what would you tell the younger you? 2010.
I would. Oh, 10 years.
2011.
Good question. 2010 or 2011. I would tell myself in 9 or 10 years, start stocking up on hand sanitizer, because you're going to go about 2 months without it, and you're a clean freak. Same thing. I think it's important. At that point, I was probably 9 years into my career, 10 years into my career. It's always good to lead with humility and at the same time know that you have a piece of the puzzle and you have a perspective that's worth sharing. Everybody's got a piece of the puzzle. I see, even at NAMU, we have really small businesses presenting best practices. We have enormous businesses presenting best practices.
Yeah.
All of them are incredibly helpful to hear about.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. All right. And then what message goes in the time capsule for 10 years from now? What wisdom do you want to put in there? So 10 years from now, you open it.
Wisdom 10 years from now. Yeah, in addition to stocking up on hand sanitizer, make sure you stop by Trader Joe's for that almond butter. That was gone for about 3 months, 4 months. My poor, my poor wife, I thought she was going to get like trampled when she tried to get some. Remain humble and hopeful in the face of change. There is opportunity in it. Even if it's incredibly humbling in the moment, there's opportunity in it, and it's important to play the long game. It's important to look at the big, keep the big picture in mind, because what we are doing will outlive us, especially in this industry.
Yeah, well said. Well said.